Well, good afternoon and welcome to WIN TV, bringing you news that matters. I'm your host, Denise Rolark Barnes, publisher of the Washington Informer. And if you're watching on Facebook, go ahead and hit share so your friends can watch the broadcast. And if you're watching on Twitter, be sure to follow us as well. And if you are a TikTok user, you can follow us there too. And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Washington Informer TV. That's one word, Washington Informer TV, all together, and become a YouTube subscriber. We value everybody. I have to say that we value everybody that takes time to not only watch the show, but also to share it and to give us ideas about programs, individuals, businesses, whatever you happen to feel is worthy of more exposure. We are so excited to hear from you so that we can share this with our viewers. And we know that often you can't be here with us at 12 o'clock every Friday when we broadcast, but when you see the show and it's on YouTube, you can watch it later and share it with those who you think would enjoy being a part of our Washington Informer family. We have a great show planned for you today. We'll be talking to Max Smith, Communications Director at the Washington Metrorail Safety Commission. We're also talking to Acting Director Everett Lott from the DC Department of Transportation. April Verrett, President of the Service Employee International Union 2015, is here today. We're going to talk about caregiving with her. And Lyndia Grant, host of the Lyndia Grant Show, will be here. And I should say also a columnist here at the Washington Informer. Got to give that a shout out. We'll be here with Darla Bishop of AmeriHealth Caritas. We're talking about National Diabetes Month. And last but not least, we'll be talking to branding expert, Dr. Talaya Waller, who has a new product to offer students, particularly those that are majoring in business, to help build a strong personal brand. So you won't want to miss the show, but first, we're going to jump to our WIN TV broadcast reporter, Curtis Knowles.
This is WIN TV News, bringing you the news that matters. DC Mayor Muriel Bowser has announced that next week the city's indoor mask mandate will end. The mandate will be lifted on Monday, though citizens are still advised to follow risk-based guidelines. Masks are still required on public transportation, schools, congregate facilities, and private businesses that still wish to maintain the mandate. Mayor Bowser has announced her candidacy and seeks to serve a third term as DC's mayor. Bowser wants to continue the programs that she initiated in education, housing, and public safety. "I'm running for re-election because there's a lot more work to be done," Bowser told the Informer. Bowser will be the city's second mayor to be elected a third term should she win after Marion Barry. Bowser will be facing her fellow DC council members Robert White and Trayon White in the Democratic Party primary in June. The Good Foods Market is opening its new location in Ward 8 at South Capitol and Atlantic Streets. The store's grand opening on November 13th saw Mayor Bowser, city officials, as well as residents of the Bellevue neighborhood at its event. The store has come through the Neighborhood Prosperity Fund, an initiative launched by Bowser. This is hugely important because we know too many Ward 8 residents that have to travel too far to get quality food options. So we need many more food options to come to this ward, says Bowser. Two of the men found guilty of the assassination of Malcolm X are expected to have their convictions thrown out on Thursday. The men in question, Muhammad Aziz and Khalil Islam, have spent more than 20 years in prison. A 22-month-long investigation conducted jointly by the Manhattan's District Attorney's Office and the lawyers of the two men found that the prosecutors and the nation's enforcement agencies, the FBI and the New York Police Department, had withheld key evidence that, had it been turned over, would have likely led to the men's acquittal. The exoneration represented an acknowledgement of errors made in one of America's most important cases. This is Curtis Knowles with WIN TV News.
Thank you, Curtis. You know, we always want to make sure that you all pick up a copy of the Washington Informer, and I'd like to show it to you, and you can buy it, not buy it, it would be nice if you could buy it, but the paper is free. So you can pick it up on newsstands all across the city, not only in DC, but also in Prince George's County, parts of Montgomery County, and of course in Northern Virginia. So pick up your latest copy of the Washington Informer. And if you didn't get a hard copy, you know, some of us just like reading the newspaper, but you know, you can also read it online at www.washingtoninformer.com. You can get the whole paper there and also read some of the stories that Curtis talked about and so much more written by our writers, great team of reporters and photographers and columnists, including Lyndia Grant, in the Washington Informer online and in print. So right now, it's my pleasure to bring Max Smith, Communications Director of the Washington Metrorail Safety Commission, to WIN TV. Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
We need a little bit more volume on your side. I don't know if it's us or you, because we know you're there. We just want to make sure we can hear you.
Sorry about that. How about if I bring the computer closer to myself here?
That certainly does work. Okay. That's fantastic. Thank you. Tell us about the role of the Metrorail Safety Commission. What do you all do? What are you about?
We're very new, only a few years old. We're the independent entity responsible for direct safety oversight of WMATA Metro Rail. So just the trains. We don't have oversight over the buses. We were created by DC, Maryland, and Virginia with the approval of Congress and the president to serve in this role, which is kind of different because, you know, obviously we have 3 jurisdictions. In many other parts of the country, a state just performs this function themselves, but we have multiple, well, we have 2 states in the district, unfortunately still just the district. So we were created in this separate kind of way, but essentially what we do is every day we're either, we have various people out watching and looking at how things are happening in the Metro system, looking at their data, talking to people who work for Metro, and providing this oversight. Metro is the one that does the work to make sure the system is safe, but we have the power to direct them to make safety changes. We do audits to identify where there are gaps in safety, and then we can require them to make corrections, and then they develop and carry out those corrective action plans.
It's interesting that you say that you all were established just a couple of years ago, and Metro's been around for a long time. Is there anything that precipitated the need to create a safety commission, or it was just time?
There were a few things. So one thing were some changes in federal law and the requirements to get federal funding for the jurisdictions. Another was that this was kind of kickstarted to replace the older Tri-State Oversight Committee that existed previous to the FTA taking direct safety oversight in 2015. And the FTA held direct safety oversight until the WMSC was certified in March 2019. But obviously, the 2 biggest kind of things that pushed for this at various points were the 2009 Red Line crash near Fort Totten and the 2015 smoke accident near L'Enfant Plaza, where Carol Glover was killed.
Yeah, wow. So let me ask, because, you know, in October, you know, we pulled a bunch of trains out of service, and the service was really cut back for quite some time, of course, impacting commuters, what commuters are out there, not a lot due to COVID, but was that, were you all involved in the necessity to make sure that happened?
That's correct. Yeah, we ordered Metro to take those rail cars out of revenue service, out of passenger service, based on what we had learned in the investigation into the derailment that had happened a few days earlier. So we responded to the scene of the derailment. Later, the National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB, decided to respond as well. So we're participating in that investigation and leading some aspects of that investigation. And based on information we gathered, and some special inspections Metro conducted, we learned of what appeared to be a potentially pervasive safety problem in terms of the wheels not being the proper distance apart or not staying the proper distance apart on the rails. And obviously, the rails are supposed to stay at one distance and the wheels have to be at that same distance or the respective distance to stay on the tracks. And so there have been a number of cases where it's been identified that on these cars, the wheels are not staying in that alignment. And that's one of the things that led up to this derailment that occurred. And so we ordered Metro to take the cars out of service until they can assess the cause and implement a plan and develop a plan under our oversight that would mitigate the risk of this happening again while people are on the train.
And I mean, it's nothing like having a couple of layers of safety on any kind of transportation structures that that we rely upon, and so many people do rely upon. I'm curious about the commission, though. How many people serve on the commission, and what qualifications do you look for? Because it sounds like it's a very specialized area. So how do you make up? How is your commission made up?
So our commissioners who are appointed by DC, Maryland, and Virginia have lots of experience in public transportation or safety or both or finances, because obviously we as an independent agency have to be responsible with the funding we get from the jurisdictions as well. So we have people like our chairman, Christopher Hart, who's a former chair of the NTSB. We have people who have been the heads of or vice presidents of national public transportation groups. We have Robert Bobb, who is one of the district's financial experts who's helped us stand up and have clean financial audits from our own perspective and get the funding we are entitled to from the federal government. At the staff level, there are some federal training programs, transportation safety and security professional and public transportation safety certification program that include a number of classes from the FTA and other experience to make sure that we all have the knowledge and expertise we need in the subject area. And most of the people who work for the commission also have backgrounds working either at Metro or at other places in the fields that they're experts in, such as rail operations, track, signaling, and things like that.
I know sometimes I go off of script here, and if I do that and it's a question you can't or shouldn't answer, please let me know. But I'm also curious about just everyday riders. How do they do? I mean, do they communicate with you? Do you all do they serve on the commission? What is the role of the actual consumer of transportation or of Metro? How do you get or hear from them?
Yeah, we really love to hear from riders when they see a safety concern or anything like that. There have been a number of instances where, because riders have reached out to us either via email, safetyconcerns@wmsc.gov, on Twitter, which I know flashed up on the screen earlier, Twitter at Metrorail Safety, Instagram at Metrorail Safety, or Facebook, where people have reached out to us or are just regular monitoring of social media. We've identified things that Metro otherwise would not have identified and investigated and reported, so that we could, make sure that they come up with ways to prevent it and mitigate that risk in the future. So anytime a rider wants to reach out to us and say, hey, I saw this, I think it's a safety issue in the rail system, we respond. Sometimes, usually it'll be me. I'm happy to talk to you. And that does help us and help Metro, because we pass those things along once we look into them to Metro to make sure that these things are addressed. Now, sometimes, again, people reach out with things that really aren't our responsibility exactly, but we still try to help you find the right place to get to so that, it can be addressed.
That's fantastic. That's wonderful. It's good to know. So everybody has had all eyes on Capitol Hill. This infrastructure bill part is passed. The other part seems as though it made a little bit of headway today. How will this bill impact Metro as far as its safety plan is concerned?
Yeah, so just to remind everyone again, we're independent of Metro. We're not part of Metro, so we are not going to decide what Metro specifically does with any of the things it gets out of the bill. We do conduct oversight, though, including of their safety certification, which makes sure that when they're putting new things into service, if they follow this process, it eliminates or identifies ways to mitigate risk before it goes in. So right now, the biggest thing people might have heard of is Silver Line Phase 2 in Virginia, the extension to Dulles Airport. So we have oversight, but Metro is carrying out that safety certification process. There are some aspects of the bill that include some additional federal grant funding for agencies like ours, state safety oversight agencies, and that will help us continue to do our work and hopefully continue to help do what we need to do to keep Metro as safe as possible for everybody who is riding around the region.
If you could rank Metro safety, and I know you'd be biased, so you probably say number one, but I don't know if it is ranked. Is Metro safety ranked among other transportation systems around the country? And do you know where we are in that ranking?
So the Metrorail Safety Commission, us as an independent group, we're one of 31 state safety oversight agencies across the country. We're extremely unique in our independence and our transparency. So we're very proud of that as far as, making sure that everyone is clear on what's going on and things like that. As far as Metro's performance itself, it's really hard to compare transit agencies. Everyone is different. Even if you just think about other cities you might have been in, just look at the trains, look at everything. It's not the same. So it's really hard to compare different transit agencies across the country.
Yeah, and ours is a pretty young system still, right?
Yeah, just over 40 years old compared to, more than 100 years old in places like New York and Boston. But each of those things bring different benefits and different challenges in terms of what systems are there or how they were designed and things like that.
Right. It's just one of those things where, you go to another city, you ride, and then you start comparing. And that's just, I guess, a natural thing that we do as transportation riders. But I want to thank you, Max, for being with us. Is there anything you need to share that I didn't ask that you think our viewers need to know about?
Obviously, the biggest questions we've been getting lately are about the 7000 series cars and our order that keeps them out of service at the moment, because that has unfortunately meant, much longer waits for trains for everyone. Obviously, we're prioritizing safety here. We understand the impact from riders. We're all riders ourselves. But we are working with Metro. As I said, we talk to Metro all the time. Metro has to develop a plan and present a plan to us that will provide for the safe restoration of service of these cars. And we hope that they are able to identify and do that soon, but it will happen when safety dictates. So unfortunately, we don't have a timeline, which I know what everyone wants.
That was my next question. I mean, do they not only a timeline, but do they have a deadline? But you're giving them the time that it takes to come up with that response.
Yeah.
Great. Okay. All right, Max, thank you so much for joining us. We'll look forward to having you back sometime, talk a little bit more about safety, and hopefully it'll be a good story.
Hopefully. We always hope for that.
All righty. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking of transportation, hey, what better time is now to bring on Everett Lott, who is the acting director of the DC Department of Transportation. Director Lott, welcome to WIN TV.
Hey, Denise, thank you for having me. Really excited to be here this morning.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, you are transportation, public safety, street safety, pedestrian safety, you name it. It's on your plate right now. And as a former ANC commissioner in Ward 4, I'm sure that you even as a consumer of transportation really are impacted by now the role that you play in making decisions. I know the council is in the process now of deciding whether to confirm you as the director, but still, as an acting director, you still have a lot on your plate. So I want you to tell me at least a little bit about what are your top priorities, or what have been your top priorities for 2021?
Well, Denise, again, thank you for having me here, and really excited to be here. My top priority for Washington, D.C. and the district when it comes to transportation, which is also the mayor's top priority, is safety and making sure that we have safe roads, safe passage for all of the residents and visitors in Washington, D.C. And so we are making investments in our transportation infrastructure to make sure that they provide safe passage for everyone. Also, we're making sure that we're providing investments to make sure that individuals have access to really affordable and reliable transportation through all 8 wards of Washington, D.C.
Transportation in the district has become really broad. I mean, once it was just buses and then the metro, and now we're including bikes and motorbikes and, whatever, all these, individual, what do you call those individual transportation modes?
Scooters.
Scooters, right.
Yeah.
Do you mandate or have any responsibility over these modes of transportation as well?
We're responsible for a variety of modes of transportation, and the scooters, we do have a contract that we support now that provides the actual scooters in the district. But again, we're looking at all different modes of transportation so that you can bike, that you can walk, those who choose to drive, they can drive, or those who choose to scoot. So we're really making investments that provides that type of access and those type of choices that individuals in Washington, D.C. and those that are visiting Washington, D.C. have and can be able to make those choices to make.
There's been a lot of construction in the District of Columbia. I mean, we're here on Martin Luther King Avenue, as a matter of fact, and the whole streetscape has completely changed over the last 2 years. We knew when the mayor got the budget or the grant, I think, to do this work over here, that something new was coming. But I'm sure this is happening all over the city. But I'm wondering now with this Build Back Better infrastructure bill, how will that impact what your department does as it relates to street improvements and safety and jobs in the district?
Yeah, and we're really excited about this infrastructure bill that recently passed that the president just signed off on, I believe, last week. Right now, we're aware that DC will receive about $1.1 billion of those investments for roads and for our bridges. And we're really excited about that. We also will receive about $1.2 billion to improve our public transportation and have the opportunity to apply for about a $2.5 billion in grant funding, which I believe the person who was there ahead of me actually spoke about. But this will be dedicated to some of our electrical vehicle charging stations. And so, Mayor Bowser is committed to, again, making sure that our aging infrastructure is improved and that we're able to rehabilitate that. And so we are making investments to support like our H Street Bridge and also our Theodore Roosevelt Bridge. But again, we're going to be making improvements and using those monies for our roads, our bridges, our tunnels, and really excited the fact that we have those opportunities, have the resources to be able to use those for improvements in Washington, D.C.
One of the biggest, I think, construction projects that the city's been celebrated recently was the reconstruction of the Frederick Douglass Bridge, and there's still. It looks as though the former bridge has been, taken down, and people are getting comfortable with the circles and whatever it takes to get across that bridge. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure. That was the district's and DDOT's largest infrastructure project to history. And so we're really excited that we're able to open that bridge ahead of schedule. We actually opened it to the first vehicular traffic on September the 11th. And so that bridge is now able to connect two thriving communities, one east of the river, one west of the river. And it's going to provide lots of great access. You mentioned and you referenced the ovals. So the bridge is open to traffic, pedestrian, as well as vehicular traffic, but we're still not done yet. So we are still working on the ovals that are bordering both sides of the bridge, which will provide, great public space areas for residents and for visitors alike to be able to enjoy that. So really excited about that. We hope to have everything completed by the spring of next year in 2022. And then it will be the full unveiling of the bridge as well as the public spaces that we are creating.
Fantastic. And can you give us an update on the pedestrian bridge, that tragic accident that happened where the bridge was hit and fell over 295? What's happening with that?
Yeah, that was very unfortunate. As you know, back in June, a truck had his lift up and hit the bridge, and unfortunately, it knocked the bridge down. And that particular bridge, as well as we have about 3 other bridges along that particular corridor, they again connected 2 thriving communities, one north of 295 and one south of 295. I would like to just add that we have opened up the Parkside pedestrian bridge. We opened up that a little early, about a month early as well. So while we are in the process of replacing the lane bridge, we were able to open up the Parkside Pedestrian Bridge, which I was actually out there last week and took a walk across it. It's fantastic. It connects to the Metro stop. And again, it does connect to thriving communities. So we are in the process now of doing the design work for the Lane Bridge. We have a great design that we feel like the residents and folks that live on both sides of 295 will enjoy and appreciate. It will be ADA accessible. It will be available so that people will be able to cross over safely and not have to worry about crossing over those service lanes. So the bridge will expand over the highway as well as the service lanes, which will make it a whole lot safer.
That's good news. We only have a couple of minutes left. I know that, a lot of folks participated in your public hearing. There are a lot of concerns about neighborhood safety, stop signs, speed bumps, whatever those things are that you try to do to control traffic, particularly as people are speeding more throughout the city. Can you talk about what you all are doing to address these traffic hazards and trying to protect people in their neighborhoods, make neighborhoods safer?
Absolutely. And yes, we definitely have seen, and this is not just unique to Washington, D.C., but it's actually something that's happening and occurring all over the country. We have seen since we've been in COVID that, of course, the volume of traffic has decreased, but the speed in which folks are traveling has increased, which is resulting in more deadlier and more fatal type of accidents. And so what we heard at my confirmation hearing and what we've heard just throughout as I've been going out into the community is that people want safer streets. And I agree with that. So we are doing everything that we can to make sure that we are really narrowing our roadways down, that we're redesigning and designing our roadways in such a way that it's pedestrian first and not vehicular first. And so we're looking at different interventions. So the campaign that you were referencing, Denise, we're looking at doing 100 safety improvements over a period of time, which we are well on our way of completing. That included, stop signs at four-way intersections. That included speed humps or speed tables. And that also included right turn hardening to make sure that we're able to, again, to limit and prevent the conflicts. But another tool in our toolbox is also our speed cameras. And so speed cameras help to reduce speeds, and really, unfortunately, for those who choose to speed, you will receive a ticket, and that's what we are hoping that will be the behavioral change that is necessary so that we can address the speeding and really get it mitigated and control it and get people to slow down. At the end of the day, we have 20 is plenty on many of our local roads. That is the speed limit, and we really just want people to slow down, observe the rules of the road, yield to pedestrians that are in crosswalks, and just everybody be safe on the roadways.
I know this is a crazy question, but do bicycles have speed limits?
Bicyclists need to also observe the rules of the road. So they are required to observe the rules of the road just like anyone in a vehicular car.
Good to know. We want to talk a little bit more at another time, but I just about what's happening in neighborhoods. I think that's really good because people are concerned, especially with more school children and all of that. So I want to thank you so much for being with us today and just bringing us up to date on what's happening with DDOT. Personal question.
Yes, ma'am.
There was a sign. We ran a photograph back from one of our older editions of the Washington Informer of the plaque that the great-granddaughter of Frederick Douglass put on the Frederick Douglass Bridge. Where's that plaque?
I'm not sure if I'm familiar with the plaque that you're referencing, so that's something I have to check on. I know we did receive an email actually just yesterday about a sign that needed to be updated, and so
Right.
that we actually had updated as of yesterday afternoon. That was one
Wonderful.
of the.
I got that email too.
Okay, so that has been changed, and that was replaced as of yesterday evening.
Fantastic. Well, if I get some more information about that plaque, because as construction happens around the city, and there are markers all over the city,
Sure.
And they disappear. And I think that part of this is just me advising you, but if we can find that plaque, and it should go on the bridge, is there anything that's going to be put back, a marker, anything for the Frederick Douglass Bridge?
Yeah, so as I was saying, we're not done yet. It is open
Okay.
for vehicular and pedestrian traffic, and so there will be some additional things that you'll see. We're working with a couple of partners, are trying to partner with a couple of different entities for some dedication type purposes for the different ovals, and we're hopeful that when we're able to do that we'll see some additional type of plaques, monuments, et cetera, that we might be able to install in those ovals.
Fantastic. I'll send you that photograph, and then
Please.
that'll help you with your investigation.
Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, Director Lott. We appreciate the time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Denise. Enjoy your holiday.
Thank you. You too.
Happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I agree with you, Laris. I appreciate the director being with us today, but you're right. We've got to preserve our history. And sometimes, as we do these new projects, we always love things new and shiny, but, we have to remember, I think history is important. And that's one of the things that so many people are holding on to these days is just remembering the past. So having said that, now I'm excited to bring April Verrett on, president, and I hope I pronounced your name correctly, April, who is the president of the Service Employee International Union, SEIU 2015. Did I give your your last name justice?
It works. It's Verrett, but
Verrett.
thank you. It's good to be
All right. Thank you. So, I with tell us about SEIU. But before you do this, I have to say, I don't care what happens as it relates to justice issues across the country. SEI shows up and shows out. Your union members are very, very dedicated to it, from appearances, to making sure that all people are treated fairly, and it's been amazing. So it's good to see you and see one of the leader, who's making all these things happen. And now we're talking about caregiving. I don't know the connection, so help connect that dot for me.
Sure, I am
How's that?
happy to. I'm happy to. And I must say, we are speaking on a morning where the work that has been in motion for over 20 years that caregivers have been leading in this country is finally one step closer to being a reality, with the House passing the President's Build Back Better Act. But tell you who SEIU is, and specifically SEIU 2015, the Service Employees International Union represents 2 million workers across the country. I lead a local here in California where we represent 400,000 caregivers, mainly women of color, largely immigrant, who do the work of home care and nursing homes. So 400,000 people who every single day wake up committed to delivering the care that seniors and people living with disabilities, or those who are getting over illness, they just need a little bit of help, so that those folks can live a life that is still filled with quality and with dignity. And we are proud to be a part of a larger union, as you talked about, that really centers, of course, worker and economic justice. But we know we will not find worker justice or economic justice without also making the realization of racial justice real, that those are inextricably linked, and that we cannot separate the issues of race from the issues of our economy and how people of color, how women, how immigrants fare in this economy. And so we don't just, bargain contracts or represent someone who might get in trouble at work. We fight for a range of justice issues, because the poor women I represent, right, we can bargain them a raise, but that's not going to change the circumstances of the communities that they live in. And so we're going to fight for immigrant justice. We're going to fight for climate justice. We're going to fight for housing justice, for racial justice. You name it, right? We show up. We fight for our democracy.
Exactly.
Because it's all very much connected.
And so, how will this bill, benefit caregivers?
So the bill makes an investment in home and community-based services, right? And that sounds really, really wonky. But what HBCS is, it is a Medicaid program that allows states to develop programs for home care for seniors and people with disabilities, as I spoke about before. So, if you need help with cooking or cleaning or taking your medication or getting to the doctor, the Medicaid program allows for people to get paid to come into your home to help care for you. In this country, there are over 800,000 people on waiting lists today. Wow. For home and community-based services. There are countless states that haven't developed a robust program that really meets the needs of an aging population. 10,000 people turn 65 every single day in this country. And we don't have a care infrastructure that is prepared to care for them adequately. And so this investment does three things. It expands access to care to get those 800,000 folks off of waiting lists and into programs. It also makes sure that the workers who deliver the care have a fighting chance at a quality of life, because these women are working and living in poverty. And so this says, if you want the money, you got to raise wages, you got to make training accessible, certification, so that we can grow what is today poverty work into good middle-class jobs. It's the largest growing job classification in our country. And so let's create a new middle class centered on good paying jobs for women that do care work. And the last thing that we want to do with this investment is start to right some generational wrongs. 87% of this workforce is women, overwhelmingly women of color. Why, if we center them, we raise their wages, we begin to undo some of the harm that has been done as these women have been dismissed, disrespected, and left out of economic recovery. And so we're solving for some of the racial and economic injustice, as well as making sure people are cared for and people are paid a living wage.
You know, April, it sounds like, you know, we in this country, we look at you know, creating legislation, funding bills to fix a problem, as opposed to setting up a model that ensures that, you know, problems like this don't exist. I mean, everybody now is looking for ways to age at home, to have a safe place, you know, in their homes, to have someone to help them take care of their homes. It seems like it costs less to do that than to house them someplace else.
It absolutely costs less.
So what is the model, though? Where would you all like to see us be? Is there a model someplace, you know, elsewhere in the world where, you know, if the United States was like blah, you know, whatever, this is what we need to be striving for?
So there are many, you know, countries that do a much better job at caring for seniors than we do here in the States. Places like New Zealand, Japan, you know, have more robust care infrastructure. But we also have been doing good work here in this country as well, in certain states. Washington State, here in my home state of California, we're going to see, you know, workers in San Francisco County, you know, earn up to $18 an hour soon. I'm here in California, there are no waiting lists. If you need care, you get care. None of it is perfect, but we have begun making inroads, but there is so much work to do to make sure we are being more proactive, to create a care system that meets the needs of those who need care as well as those who provide the care.
Do you have a response to the opposition of this bill? Let's say Congressman Manchin out of West Virginia, who believes just the cost is, you know, who doesn't support, you know, the increased inflation that he thinks the bill will cost. What do you say to some of the those who have opposed this bill?
Sure. I would ask them, well, what do you intend to do for the families that have been struggling in this economy, that were struggling before the pandemic, that have struggled during this pandemic and will continue to struggle? If you think it's hard for folks now that inflation is starting to go up, right, that some middle class folks are feeling the pinch, well, what about the people who have been living in poverty, who that this pinch that you're feeling isn't new to them? Right? We cannot continue to kick the can down the road and ignore working families in this country. I am so proud of our president for passing the physical infrastructure bill. That is great. But we know 90% of those jobs are going to go to white men. You cannot stop leaving out women and women of color. We have to build an economic recovery that touches their lives as well. And so Senator Manchin, like, we can't leave anybody out. We got to create an economy and a country that is about including all of us.
Sounds a great note to end on. And I appreciate you being with us and helping us to understand, you know, we hear this Build Back Better infrastructure bill. And a lot of us don't know all the pieces or components that are in that bill that will impact our lives, over and above, safe streets. And so we want to thank you so much, April, for being with us. We certainly do celebrate SEIU for all that you all do to, like you said, to protect justice for all of us. So thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me and for what you do to protect justice. Thank you so much.
All righty. Have a great one.
You too.
Okay. So we're going to keep moving. Great to have that conversation. I think that was really important because we know that even in the DC metro area, there are loads of healthcare workers or home care workers who are probably looking at this bill as well and hoping and praying that, there will be something to support them more so than what they've been doing. A lot of high school kids, I notice, get out of school and this is what they want to pursue as a career. And we say, God bless them. But yeah, they have families too. So I thank her for being here with us. Now, this is also, November is American Diabetes Month. And I'm so excited to have Lyndia Grant and Darla, where is she? Is she with us? Yeah, Darla Bishop with us to talk about diabetes, but not to talk about getting it, how to get rid of it. And that's a possibility. Thank you, ladies, for being with us and to share, I think, this much needed information. So one thing I've noticed, was beginning to notice is, we have fast food restaurants popping up in our neighborhoods, but we're also having a whole lot of those, what do you call those places where people have to go? Insulin places where people have to go and get, the dialysis. That's it. Dialysis centers. They're popping up almost as quickly as the fast food restaurants are. So let's talk about that, Lyndia. You once, you dealt with diabetes. Talk about your experience.
Well, two things for me. One is my mom, who died from complications of diabetes on Christmas Day in 2000. And Denise and Darla, that's changed my life forever. Because 2000 doesn't seem that long ago. It was 21 years ago. But so many African Americans didn't know. Here I am from a family of 9, and we were not educated about diabetes. My mom was having problems that we didn't recognize. She had had strokes. She had been in the hospital at Howard University, and doctors didn't even check because Dr. Gail Nunley Bland from Howard University is over that now, but she said they always check now. Well, back then they didn't. So our family did not have the knowledge. And so when we started to find out about it, she only lived 12 years. And when she had me, Denise, I weighed 13 pounds. And I want to bring that up because of gestational diabetes. So she was prone to have diabetes because she had such a huge baby. I was like the size of a 3-month-old. And so she's a Southern woman, was a Southern woman who was one of the best cooks in North Carolina. All that good food that was not healthy for us, which means that I got it too. So I was in my mid-50s when I got diabetes. So I've had it about 15 years. And when the doctor first told me, Denise, I ignored her. I didn't believe it because my mom had had her legs amputated, both of them. She had had kidney dialysis. She had had 7 or 8 strokes. She had mouth twisted. She couldn't talk to us anymore. And she had been a minister. And so many buses came to her funeral because she was such a powerful preacher. And she just was ready to go, I think. But look what happened. And I wanted to understand. I kept asking the doctor, what in the world happened? Why is this so? Why is she so mutilated? Because she was having kidney dialysis, couldn't talk, strokes, high blood pressure, legs cut off. Wow. What in the world is this? So out of all of my mother's children, after she passed, I just went to work. And how did it change my life? One, I ended up getting it. But more than anything, I started helping other people. I didn't care what it cost me. It wasn't about money. I just started writing about it in my column. I wrote an article, Denise, that has been sent all over the world. If you go out there and Google it, it was about my story of my mother. Stop fanning the flames of the diabetes epidemic. And I took some time one night and Googled it. It's in countries, they translated it. And I really just spent time helping people understand, because I said we didn't know. So I think a lot of people don't know.
Right. And
That's how it changed my life.
I'm glad, because now, with Darla with us from AmeriHealth, who now you are also focused on addressing this issue of diabetes there at AmeriHealth. Talk about what AmeriHealth Caritas in DC is doing to address diabetes.
So at AmeriHealth, we understand that health isn't just about what you talk to the doctor about, right? And that couple times a year you see the doctor, and hopefully a couple times a year you see your dentist, but it's about where you live, what you do for a living, whether your home is safe, whether your children are in a safe and nurturing environment. And so we are always thinking about the whole person. And so when it comes to diabetes, we offer several programs. So not only for folks who already have a diagnosis of diabetes or pre-diabetes, we have a virtual class that we're doing. We have a Spanish language class for our brothers and sisters who are more comfortable in Spanish through our partnership through La Clínica del Pueblo. We have programs that we offer on a recurring basis through the Howard University Center for Diabetes. And once things are more open and we can get back into in person, we have a fantastic program that Lyndia has actually hosted for us several times in the past called our Diabetes Wellness Circles. And through those programs, we look at the person's whole life. What are you eating? Are you able to move? What are you stressed out about? How is your emotional health? Because we know that all of those things impact your ability to not only manage and understand what even diabetes is doing to your body, but to get to a different and healthier place.
Before we actually got on the show, Lyndia and Darla, we talked a little bit about how doctors now are diagnosing people as being pre-diabetic.
Yes.
Which I think, is helpful, because now it's the warning sign that, if you don't take certain steps, certain things, it's inevitable that you will have diabetes. Lyndia, did you have the benefit of a early warning sign, or were you sort of full-fledged before you even knew you had it?
No, Denise, because when my doctor told me 15 years ago that I had diabetes, I was so angry because of what had happened to my mom. I left her office in Silver Spring, Maryland, went home, and I didn't believe her. I didn't, because I didn't know enough about it still. I hadn't learned. And so in a month when I went back, she scheduled me to come right back because I had it. And so I didn't change anything. But when I went back, I asked first question, why did you say I have diabetes? She said, because you do. I said, but why? How do you know? And that's when I found out my A1C was 7.2. It was low, but still I was above. You have to get above 5.7. So I was in the early phases. I wasn't even pre. So I had been pre-diabetic sometime and didn't know it. So then after I found that out, Denise, I went home and started throwing everything out. I got serious. I worked. I threw out cereal. I had bought a pineapple. I took one bite of it, because I found out you have to study food. You can't just think you know. You have to, and sometimes they even recommend you take classes. But I did self-study. I went all over the internet, reading everything. And so I threw out stuff and I reorganized, and I got my blood sugar back down to pre. I haven't gotten all the way out, but I did get to pre. But then, Denise, I want to say, and I know I don't have much time, I messed up being busy, and my blood sugar got all the way up to 15 twice. And I want you to know right now I'm at 6.8 or 6.5 or 6. I'm close to being out of it again. But this time I believe it's going to stay here forever, because I stopped checking. People have to check. You have to have home monitors, because I'm 70 years old and I've been eating and doing things automatic. Our brains, it's a lifestyle change. So I know I can't talk long, but I wanted to get that in. More than anything, I don't care how much you learn and know, you can forget. And so if I don't say anything else important to you today, even if you know, you got to reprogram your thinking and make a lifestyle change, because it won't last, because you'll get busy and forget all about it and go right back eating like you used to.
I love that testimony. Darla, is that a new protocol now to ensure that, go ahead. that
It
people
is,
know
yeah.
their
So the
status?
guidelines recently changed so that folks can now get a label of pre-diabetic because, like you said, it brings your attention. It makes you curious. It makes you ask more questions. It makes you say, "Uh-oh, I better get serious about how I'm eating, whether I'm moving my body, if I'm talking to a therapist or using even something." We have an app called Ginger where people can get emotional support because eating and food is so emotional, right? We have so many feelings and warm feelings and memories around the foods that we eat, even if they're not the healthiest for us. And so helping to work through that can help us do better.
And darling, we laugh a lot because sometimes, we remember back in the day, folks used to say, "You got that sugar," but define for us what diabetes is and what pre-diabetes is.
So diabetes is what happens when your body is unable to appropriately process insulin and sugars and foods. And so it throws off, it's a hormonal condition. It throws off your body's balance. And because your body is in an imbalance, it makes it difficult for your liver to work properly, for your kidney to work properly, and then also your heart to work properly. So that's why folks who have uncontrolled diabetes for a long time can have to end up on dialysis or have heart problems. And pre-diabetes means that you have numbers in your system when your doctor tests your blood and your blood sugar that are pointing in the direction of danger. And so they're trying to raise up that red flag and say, "Hey, if you keep going the way you're going, we might have some serious trouble soon. So let's get you so you can change your behaviors, change your diet, get moving a little bit more and get you supported so we can get you out of the danger zone."
So, because we're running out of time, this is really, really good information. And I'm hoping as we go into, it's interesting, they made October Diabetes Month so that you get your head right before Thanksgiving.
November.
That's exactly
November.
right.
Oh, okay. So thank you. I'm sorry. I'm glad you corrected me on that. I'm still a month behind, but still, because we're going into Thanksgiving and people, what we do around this from
I
this
think
time
it's
to
the
the end of
best
the
month.
year.
It's the best
Yeah,
month.
exactly. So, Darla, if people wanted to know more about the programs that AmeriHealth offers, where would they reach out to you or to
The best place
AmeriHealth?
to visit The best place to visit is our website, and that's AmeriHealthCaritasDC.com, spelled exactly how it is here on my label. We also have social media at AmeriHealth Caritas DC on Facebook and Instagram, and then on Twitter, just AmeriHealth DC. And so we're always sharing health tips. On our website, we have a robust library of articles and videos, and we often run stories in the Informer to make sure that folks know about the resources available in the larger community.
Wonderful. And we thank you for that. And Lyndia as well. I mean, you're on the radio every day. Was it? No, once a week.
Every Friday at
Every
Radio
Friday.
1, Spirit 1340 WYCB. And I thank AmeriHealth for being my major sponsor. And I write about diabetes in my column. I've been doing that for the last 7 or 8 years. I do a series on it because remember I said I've been sharing and helping people and having all kinds of doctors on my show and nurses. And so it's just who I am. As long as I live, I know how devastating it is. And I have to go, but I want to say the most important thing you can do is change your diet, exercise, check your blood sugar, and keep it in mind. Don't ever just forget the way I did.
All right. I want to thank both of you all. This has been great. We'll be listening and reading, Lyndia. And also, as I told you all personally, I got that pre-diabetic diagnosis, but I followed Lyndia's advice. So when I go back, I'm hoping to hear good news.
Yes.
But yeah, like you said, you got to keep it up. It's a lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
Change. So
gotta remember. Yes.
Right. Thank you both for being with us today, and
Thank you.
happy Thanksgiving and great,
thank you,
great
Denise,
holiday.
for having us. And I'm so glad Darla could join me. Thank you, AmeriHealth. And thank you, Denise, for letting me write for you for 16 years. I've enjoyed it.
Well, we have too, and so have our readers. So that's a great thing.
All right.
All right. You all take care. Yeah, so it is the holiday, and we're about to go and eat all we can because the food is going to be flowing. But remember those messages and make sure that you get that walk in and drink plenty of water. And speaking of advice, I'm trying to make a segue here because I'm really excited to also bring Dr. Talaya Waller here to Win TV. We're not going to talk about diabetes or anything like that, but we're going to talk about a special app or a special solution or software program that Dr. Waller has come up with that really is going to be of help to a lot of those college grads that are coming out of school or in school, like Desiree, who's sitting right here next to me, about to graduate from Howard University in a couple of weeks. Dr. Waller, thank you so much for being with us. And we really want to know about, making your brand, starting your brand.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for having me, Denise. My software Valuables is a software as a service that takes the guesswork out of building a strong, authentic, and profitable personal brand. Since 2014, I've been helping top executives from Fortune 500 companies, public figures, and government officials to build their brand and to position their careers for success. But such a personalized service isn't affordable to the everyday person. We created Valuables as an inexpensive option for those looking to build their brand's value. We're starting with students in schools like Howard University, like you said, but then also expanding this offering to ambitious professionals, startup entrepreneurs, and talented creators. So
why is the personal brand so important? What does it do for the individual?
Mm-hmm. Well, have you ever felt like you were undervalued at work?
And I'm my own employer. Of course, I feel undervalued.
Yeah.
I've tried to fire myself, but I haven't accepted my resignation. So, but yet I'm forced to work harder. That's a joke. But go ahead. Yeah, I know people do.
Yeah. So a lot of people feel undervalued at work. When people come to me and ask, Dr. Waller, can you help me build my personal brand? What I believe they're asking me to do is help other people see their value, help other people to see that their thoughts, their ideas, their skill set, and their talents are valuable. They're the best person for the job. So when a person builds their brand, they actually end up making 47% more money than those that don't. And as a career professional, it's really important because over 92% of recruiters are now looking at our online personal brand to see who we are. And they're only spending an average of 6 to 7 seconds making a hiring decision. So your personal brand directly impacts your career trajectory and how much money that you'll make throughout your career. So
things are different, I think, as far as employers are concerned. This is a whole new landscape right now.
mm-hmm.
And so how do you bring in factors that particularly, and I hate to, point out millennials, but a lot of, there was a generation of people who wanted a job, got a job, wanted to keep that job and, for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Today, it's really different. It's really different. So how do you develop a brand that may sort of reflect the fact that you recently graduated from college? In the last 2 years, you've worked 4 different jobs.
Mm-hmm.
How do you help
mm-hmm.
millennials particularly create that brand that shows an employer that this is someone worth investing time in?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So I think that, what you're describing is absolutely correct. We do not build our careers in a linear fashion anymore. And so it has become a little bit more difficult for the everyday career professional to package who they are and the value that they can bring to a company's bottom line. And so what we do is we help young people, young professionals specifically right now, to discover what their brand is. The first step is to identify what your value is that you're bringing to the table so that you can articulate it. But then in addition, so that you can be strategic with your career and make sure that everywhere you work, everything that you do falls under the umbrella of your brand. And that way you're constantly building, and you're building with the associations. You want to work with companies that align with your brand. This generation, I'm a millennial, but then the generation after me as well, Gen Z, they care about what their company cares about. So it's important to understand what your brand is, and Valuables is the first product that actually helps people discover their personal brand.
I love that. And I know we're running a little over time, but I still wanted to get this question in because we do have viewers who fall on the other side of the spectrum. You know, used to work a career, 55 years old, you're going to retire. These are people now that are looking for second careers, right? They're moving into, they're not ready to retire yet. They're just moving into new areas. Does Valuables help them as well?
Absolutely, because you could spend your entire career working under a corporate brand and not really understand what the common thread has been for your entire career for your brand. You need to understand that before you go and serve on a board. You need to understand that before you decide, okay, well, now I'm going to spend time teaching or writing a book. You need to understand what your core value is in the market. And then also, how do I take that value and monetize it in the digital age? And so that's something that my consultancy does a lot of work on with individuals. So I have a bit of knowledge with that. But yes, as Valuables grows and expands and goes through the phases, we hope to help people throughout their entire career. So from the beginning up until when you're retiring and just thinking about passive income. So.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, we didn't talk about this or have this in the script, but I see a little book standing up behind you. Is that yours?
Yes.
Can you tell us about it?
It's an academic book, first of its kind on the academic market, that talks about personal brand management from the beginning, which is you just identifying what your brand is. It talks about marketing your brand, and then it talks about managing your brand equity, really looking at your brand as a financial tool, because that is what it is. And I just really briefly, you mentioned Frederick Douglass earlier and the Frederick Douglass Bridge. And I just love this example of Frederick Douglass because he's the most photographed man of the 19th century. And he was very strategic when he did that because he wanted to change the image of Blackness, the brand of being Black, because it's not good enough to just free people in the physical sense if the intangible image that's in someone's head is that Black people are lazy or we're not valuable. And so personal branding has been around for a very long time. And but now it's just even more important because we have more platforms. But Douglass saw the modern day camera being accessible to the everyday person as a platform. He went viral manually. Today we go viral on platforms like Instagram. And so technology does not change what we do. It only changes how we do it. So
Dr. Waller, you are the woman here. Thank you so much, and sort of the brand guru. I really appreciate you sharing that with us. We might want to have you back on at some point to talk about some other, as far as career development and ways in which you can assist people, because this is we're going through a major transition right now due to COVID. People really looking at their careers, their brand, and their future a lot differently than they did, let's say, 3 years ago. Exactly. So you're very much on time, and we're so glad that you wanted to spend some time with us here today. So we thank you for that. And again, we're going to post the your website one more time before we go. And I'm going to have you to join me in wishing everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, yes. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone. I hope people spend time with their friends, their family, and just take a break, a real break away from work.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. Having said that, it's been a pleasure to have everybody on the show, but more so to have you joining us for this another edition of Win TV. We will be back next Friday after Thanksgiving. Don't say anything if my cheeks are a little fatter, but that's only because, I ate another scoop of greens or something. I don't know. But have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next week. But don't go away, because we have Sounds of the DMV coming, as well as what's going on DC with the Media Prince. So until next week, stay well.
Hello, my beautiful people of the DMV. We are back with another week of all things DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Let's see which DMV superstar has their own dog, Grammy considerations, and Corday let us know how he really feels. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to What's Going On DC. First up, let's congratulate Ms. Keisha Thrope, a Maryland teacher who just won the $1 million Global Teacher Prize. Take a look.
Education is a human right, and all children should be entitled to have access to it. So this recognition is not just about me, but about all the dreamers who work so hard and dare to dream of ending generational poverty.
Wale said it's time for a Grammy with his consideration post. Take a look. Ari Lennox gets her first Billboard Hot 100 entry with her song with Summer Walker. Hey, congratulations, Ari. Great news! This week, DMV's own Rico Nasty released her limited edition doll, and let's just say, this is really freaking dope. Take a look. In other news, DC's own Dave Chappelle is still under fire from his Netflix special. And the fire is coming from us here in DC. Shaking my head. His high school Duke Ellington cancels his fundraiser after students threatened to walk out. Now come on, people. Let's just move on. In sports, Chase Young from the Washington football team is out for the season with a torn ACL. Ouch. On the flip side, the Washington Wizards have had their best record in the Eastern Conference at 10-3. Now what would Sweetie say?
I know that's right.
Fat Trail and Lil Durk. DMV's own Corday lets us know how he really feels on Twitter. Take a look. At this point, anything is better than that DaBaby debacle. Great news! Howard University students reached a solution with the university after protesting for over a month. Finally, Good Foods Market opens up in Ward 8 with more fresh food options and jobs for the residents of Ward 7 and 8. I love to see it. Councilmember Trayon White and Fat Trail speak to the students of John Hayden Johnson Middle School. Take a look.
And what you decide to do in the next 5 to 7 years, going to determine your next 25 years. And so it's very serious. I know a lot of times for middle school, we growing, our body's developing and changing, and we taking it for granted, but you are becoming somebody every day. And it's really about what your brain gonna be. I heard Turk say he wanted to meet Fat Trail. Something that Fat Trail did impressed him to say he wanted to meet this person. What is a college coach gonna say to you that he want to meet you? Because he gonna come to Coach Mike. And we gotta figure out for you, well, you gotta figure out what's your brain. Is he sitting up in class every day? Is he doing all this homework? Is he showing up on time? Is he respectful? Is he courteous? Do he help his fellow teammates or classmates? Or is he a jokester? Is he cussing in the hallway? Is he playing around? Is he late? Is he disrespectful? What's your brain?
Let's end it off with some encouraging words from our Southeast Queen, Taraji P. Henson.
I don't want to be strong. Sometimes the weight is just too much, and to put on that facade like you're strong all the time, that's exactly what it is, a facade. That's whack. You have to be human, and human means you're vulnerable.
Well, folks, that's it for What's Going On DC this week. We are headed out. For all this and more, head over to wibridgedc.com to catch up on all the Bridge greatness. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube and follow us on social media. And hit those hashtags WGODC and WIBridgeTMP style. All right, we're signing off. Have a great weekend. Be safe and be careful. Peace.